Hey. I'm gonna have a drink of water before I start because I've just come off another call and I'm parched. It's been baking here over the last few days. It's lush weather. Hopefully we're gonna keep the sun while I talk to you, because it's that time of night where it just starts fading really quickly. So if I end up in the dark in a minute, that's why. Let me know who's getting logged in. I think I might be wonky. Do I look wonky to you? Tell me if I look wonky. Say hi when you get. Hey Marta, how you doing? Who else can I say? Give me a hey when you're in, so I know who's here and who's listening. If you're watching live, let me know you're watching live. If you're watching on catch up, let me know that too. It's nice to know. Hola. It's nice to know who's catching these things live and who isn't. So our training tonight isn't going to take too long. I've got some notes because I don't want to miss anything because it's really important. But hey Vicky, hey Anita, hey Edmonda. I had the most wonderful weekend, the most wonderful weekend. Long bike rides across the beach, not actually on the sand, obviously that would be really difficult, but across the coast. It was amazing. People watching, because I love a bit of people watching. Long walks. We went a walk up a mountain. I love being out in nature. It's my favourite thing to do. We had a massage, we ate great food, we barely laughed at each other. James and I, by the way, and our dogs. I had an amazing weekend, and you know, that's my dog there just taking a pee up the tray, like on cue, cocked his leg up behind me, just as if to say hi. There would have been a time that I would have felt really guilty for taking that time out this weekend. There would have been a time that I would have been so consumed by fear that I wouldn't have enjoyed this weekend. I'd have been plagued by thoughts like, entrepreneurs don't just take time out. Serious business builders don't just put their business down for the whole weekend and just be with their family in nature. It's almost like we have to prove to ourselves that it's difficult so that we feel worthy sometimes. Anybody else get that? Like, let me know if you can relate to some of the things that I'm saying. It's like we deliberately make things difficult sometimes, or like deliberately almost punish ourselves and want to overcomplicate and overwork so that we feel worthy of the success that we want. One of the biggest beliefs I used to be plagued with is that if it's easy come, it'll be easy go too. And it took me a while and quite a lot of self-analysis to recognise that was what was going on for me. But I used to constantly overwork and put myself through my paces and punish myself, because deep down I was worried that if it was easy come, then it would be easy go. You know, if massive amounts of money came into my life easily, then I might lose it just as quickly. If my business grew fast and effortlessly, it might crash and burn just as quick. So it was almost like fighting to prove to myself that I could have what I needed and deserve it at the end through sweating and blood and tears. And if you've been following my story recently, you'll know that I hit a pretty big goal last week and bought my dream house in cash, and it made me mortgage free at 33, and I was determined to do it while I was still 33. I'd got until August and that was the goal, so it was absolutely happening. But you know what's really interesting about fear and anxiety and worry, what's really fascinating is that our biggest problem is that we think we shouldn't have any. You know, and this is what I'm learning at a deeper level all the time, and this is in part what I want to share with you tonight. We try to eradicate our fears and we feel like we shouldn't have them, or that they hold us back, or it's the anxiety that's the problem. Now, I can remember a time when I used to worry about paying my rent. I was living in rented accommodation and I was terrified of being evicted. I was terrified that my business wouldn't earn enough consistently to pay my rent comfortably and I'd end up evicted. I used to worry about it, I used to stress about it because I liked where I live, and I used to look around thinking, I love where I live. Oh my God, what if I couldn't pay the rent? And I can remember thinking, when I've got my own house and my own mortgage and my business is covering my mortgage payments and then some, I'll feel super safe. And then I had my own mortgage and my business was covering the payments and then some, and I didn't feel any safer. Then I used to worry about losing my house and having it repossessed, and then having to tell my family that I'd got nowhere to live and asking if I could move in. I'd follow the rabbit and put myself in that place. And the other night, we bought our house cash. The banks don't own it, I do. We got the keys and we drove up there for the first time, and I was FaceTiming my sister, who's also my best friend. We share everything together, so it's been really tough living apart. As much as I love to travel, I also love my family so much, so that can be difficult. So I was on the way up there on the drive, and I was holding my phone, the screen faced outwards, so I was showing her like the road up to the house and look at the view, and then down the alley, not alley, that makes, it's not an alley, like country lane that we have to drive down, and showing her the views there, and then the house came into view, and I'm literally squeaking with excitement as I'm showing her and looking at this just beautiful house and these spectacular views. And she goes to me, Michelle, that's not a house, that's a freaking mansion. And she's squeaking with joy. And all of a sudden, when she said that, I felt a rush of excitement and pride, followed by this subtle feeling of dread, this sudden feeling of panic. And do you know what the gremlin did? I call it the gremlin because it's always there. Fear, anxiety, call it what you like, I call it the gremlin. It whispered, you did get the house insurance sorted, didn't you? James did send the email about the house insurance. You are covered, aren't you? Suddenly, I find myself in this joyous moment, worrying that the house might burn down. And maybe for this 24 hours in between us buying it and the house insurance being put on it, it could burn down and I lose everything. I'm telling you this, not because it's doom and gloom and you've got to live with fear for the rest of your life and it never gets any better. I'm not telling you for that reason. I'm telling you because you think that fear is sometimes your problem and that anxiety is your problem, and it's something that needs to be worked on. It's something that needs to be got rid of or eradicated. It's something that at some point you won't have anymore, when the truth is that's just like saying I need to find a way to put my hand in the oven and it not burn, or I need to find a way to stick my head in that pool and still be able to breathe. It's just not realistic, because as long as you are a thinking, breathing, living human being having a human experience, fear and anxiety are part and parcel of the deal. They're not something to be eradicated. They're something to tell us that we're experiencing a trigger or a thought that's disempowering us, that's frightening us. It's the thought that needs the work, not the fear or the anxiety, because that's actually it's just keeping us safe. It's reminding us, it's like an internal feedback system that's telling us you're having a thought that's not serving you. So many people messaged me beautiful messages of congratulations and love, and it was really overwhelming, and those of you that did, thank you so much. A lot of people then went on to ask things like, how do I do that? But some messages were followed by disempowering thoughts that I could hear. Like, do you think it's possible for me with 2 children to achieve what you have in that amount of time? Do you think I've missed the boat now because I've already gone past my 60th birthday? Do you think it's possible for me to achieve that sort of financial freedom when I've already been bankrupt 3 times? So you start to hear right away some of the fears and anxieties and beliefs that come up in people that initially are just looking for help and asking the right question, which is, how can I? But then immediately followed by, how can I? Because I can't, because of da 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 da. Now, a few of these questions were loaded with limiting beliefs and loaded with reasons why I can't have both, because that's a common thing that comes up. Like, do you think I can have this income and this amount of time and money and life? Because I don't want to sacrifice the time with my children, for example. I still want to be the best mom I can be, but have X, Y, Z. And this is a belief that we have to choose, we have to compromise, that we can't have it all. And I believe we can. I believe we can have a freedom business. And rather than try and come back to everybody and answer every question and do it a disjustice, because you really can't do that through Messenger and do it well, I decided to put together a training called the Freedom Formula for Female Entrepreneurs that walks you through the steps that I took to achieving this goal and others. And you can download that. It's above this video for you, so you've got that, and it's free and there's no strings attached, and it'll take you 45 minutes to get through, and pen, paper, and make loads of notes and suck it up, because I tried to put everything in there that I know to be true, the things that you need to know as a female entrepreneur if you want to build a freedom business. Now, I want to lead into something else that I want to give you tonight that's more based around fear and anxiety, because this is the thing that will stop a lot of people from taking the action, getting the right strategy, becoming the person that can have the success, because they won't take the steps because the fear and anxiety gets in the way. So here are my 3 steps. It's the 3-step system to calming down to speed up your success, and I call it the relax to rise model. The relax to rise model. That's what you're going to be learning now, so you can get started on it right away, because when we can manage our fear and thrive through it rather than feeling like we've got to eradicate it or that we're broken because we have it, then we're able to rise to the next level of success. So step 1 in the system is be honest with yourself. That's the first step. You know what beliefs and actions are limiting. You know your own BS better than anybody else knows your BS. But you're probably the best person at disguising it too and telling yourself stories. You'll be better at that than anybody else too. So like stories like, for example, this is one that comes up a lot. I don't want to use my personal social media platforms for business because I'm a private person. Or I don't want to use my personal Facebook for business because I post pictures of my kids on there, and who knows who's gonna see them if I use it for business too. This is normally code for I'm shit scared of being visible and feeling vulnerable, and I don't want to be judged by the people that know me. And the rest is just bullshit, because there's a way around the rest. A regular reality check with ourselves is a really good habit to get into. Now, you might do what I do in this process, which is I have a weekly honesty hour with myself. And my honesty hour happens as I'm planning my week, and I journal a few questions to really uncover what fears and anxieties are limiting my success in that moment. And here's some questions you might ask yourself. So I'll ask myself things like, and I've got them here, what am I not doing that I should be doing? Well, what am I not doing enough of? Is another great question. Or what have I been avoiding? Is another great question. What fears am I allowing to cause resistance or avoidance? What fears am I allowing to cause resistance or avoidance? What am I most scared of right now? That's a great question to ask yourself. All sorts of things will come up when we ask the right questions. And how is this fear showing up for me? That journaling time for me once a week is the most valuable time I spend next to planning my week, because it immediately helps me identify my bullshit, get really honest with myself, and it's that self-awareness around our fears and our anxieties, and how are they showing up, and what are they stopping me from doing, and what stories are they telling me. Step 2 in the process is go to the worst case scenario. And you've probably never heard this advice given before. And the Relax to Rise model is unique because I made it up. It's not from anywhere else. It's not regurgitated material from someone else. It's what I use and have had to work out myself to manage my own fear. And as you know, as I just told you, it still comes up. So step 2 is go to the worst case scenario. I'm telling you that most fear is irrational. Most of the things we worry about never ever happen. And even if they do, we deal with them way better than we knew we ever could, always. Following the rabbit a little bit and allowing our mind to go there, and what will happen if that thing that I'm scared most of actually happens, will allow us to kind of bash out the routes we could take to solve that problem and know that we'll be all right if it does happen. What if you do get an unhappy customer that says your work's shit and demands a refund if you put yourself out there? You'll deal with it. You'll deal with it. And by following the rabbit, you'll start to think about how you might deal with that. And how that you'd still be alive, there'd still be blood pumping through your veins and nobody would die. And the only thing that would hinder your success is if you let it. I love the saying, dogs bark at the train of success as it passes. But it only slows it down if it stops to listen. And it's so true. It's not the fears that get in the way. It's not other people's opinions that get in the way. It's our belief that we can't deal with it and the fear of it happening that stops us. We have access to way more resources and resilience than we think. And sometimes we've just got to allow our brain to go there and realise that we do. So don't buy into, I can't think anything negative. I must just ignore that this thought keeps coming up because the law of attraction will get me. Don't buy into that. Yes, we know the law of attraction's a thing. We know it works and it's amazing, but it's not instant. If it was, I would have all sorts of diseases. Just the other day, Harvey, bless him, got a tick while we were out walking. So I was busy researching Lyme's disease for about an hour. I convinced myself that I had it and I hadn't even been bitten by a tick. And I didn't get it. So it's okay to allow our mind to wander sometimes, and it's okay to allow ourselves to think of worst case scenario, just to recognise that we'd still be all right even if it happened, and that it's no reason to allow it to stop us. The third and final step in the Relax to Rise model is give yourself a fucking break. Just give yourself a break. Seriously, stop waiting to be perfect before you shine your light. Stop waiting to be a perfectly articulated, confident public speaker before you do your live videos consistently. Stop waiting to fit into that size 10 dress before you have your brand photography shoot. And stop waiting to put yourself out there and get clients until you know absolutely everything there is to know about how to serve them. You've got to remember that your fear that comes up and tells you that you can't, you shouldn't, what if this happens, what if that happens, it's built in through years and years and years of evolution. It's evolutionary, it is. And most of it's bullshit because, you know, years ago when there was legitimate fears around survival at play, we were, you know, I don't know, living in caves and the fear that was real, you know, we could get eaten by a tiger or a lion, or we might not be able to eat today if we don't do X, Y, Z, we could starve. Those fears don't quite exist for us anymore, and the rest is just false evidence appearing real. We associate business and money now with the same old evolutionary fears of eating and survival, because that is our survival now. Making money equals survival. Staying part of the pack, it used to mean you'll get eaten if you don't. Now it means we'll be ostracised and talked about, but it triggers the same fears within us, but they're not real. Going through the three-step formula and recognizing that it's okay to have them, it's evolution. Let's stop trying to eradicate them. That would be like sticking our hand on an oven and saying it shouldn't burn and we've got to try and stop it from burning. It's there, it's real, it happens, it never ever goes away. I'm not going to sit here tonight and say to you, you're going to get to a point where you'll stop being scared. You're going to get to a point where everything's comfortable and everything just works out for you and you never have anxiety again. You're probably always going to feel scared. You're probably always going to be an anxious mess, but you can still be supersonic successful despite of it. All you got to do is use the 3-step formula to manage it, and don't ever let it stop you from taking action. So I'm just going to recap the 3 steps for you and then remind you how to get hold of the Freedom Formula for Female Entrepreneurs, which is a much longer training and talks to you more about the strategy you need to develop that sort of business. So number 1, be honest with yourself. Call your own bullshit. Don't make it somebody else's responsibility to do it for you, because what if they don't? Choose you. Choose to point at yourself in the mirror and say, I call bullshit. You've got some fears stopping you. This is what they are. Have that honesty hour with yourself every week and decide not to let yourself off the hook. Step 2, go to the worst case scenario with the biggest fear that's holding you back. What if everybody does talk about me? What if everybody does behind my back say that I look an idiot because I'm doing all this stuff on Facebook? What's the worst thing that's going to happen if that happens? But then equally, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I don't do this? What's the worst thing that's going to happen if I let this fear completely consume me and I don't go after the things that I want? There's one thing I know, the fear of showing up, the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of being broke, all these fears that come around, there's nothing more scary to me than the fear of regret, the fear of looking back and knowing I could have had everything, but I chose not to, because it's all a choice. Step 3 is give yourself a fucking break. You know, don't expect to be perfect. Don't fear being imperfect and use it as a reason why you can't succeed. And that's a very quick training from me tonight, the 3-step formula to shifting fear and anxiety, calling your own BS and going after the things you really want confidently, knowing that you'll always feel scared of it. But success isn't built in the absence of fear and anxiety. It's built despite of it. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. But you can download the Freedom Formula for Female Entrepreneurs above, completely free today. It's about 45 minutes, as I mentioned before, so make sure you've really carved out that time in your diary and you're ready with a pen and paper and no distractions to make notes, because if I don't say so myself, it will likely be a turning point for you. It will likely be a moment you remember. It will likely be the most important training you'll ever watch, because I hold nothing back, and I talk to you about what it's really going to take for you to build the business you want and go after the goals that you've got, and the step-by-step process I used to do exactly that led me to hitting that goal last week. Thanks for listening, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Mwah.